Hello. There is a pair of twin sisters driving along a coastal road in Hawaii. While driving, their car suddenly lost control. From a cliff over 60 meters high, the car plummeted onto the rocks below, just a short distance from the shoreline. Miraculously, the elder sister survived, while the younger sister was not so fortunate. Due to many suspicious points surrounding the accident, the elder sister was accused of murdering her younger sister. That is the story of the Yoga twins in Hawaii. The main characters in the story are the twin sisters. The elder sister's name is Allison Duadzuryu, and the younger sister's name is Anne Diwanbrudu. They were born in August 1978 in the state of New York. New York is located in the northeastern United States and is one of the most economically developed states in the country, leading in finance, industry, arts, and more. About 390 km from New York City is a city called Utica. The twin sisters grew up there, apart from the two of them. The family also had an older sister, who was 3 years their senior. When the twins were 5 years old, their mother passed away from an aneurysm. This was a major shock for the two sisters, and they depended on each other for support from then on. Both in personality and appearance, they were very similar, as if they were reflections of each other. They were almost always inseparable, with a very close relationship. Allison and Anne attended Northam High School. During their school years, both participated in the school's cheerleading team and spent time practicing every day. From then on, they developed a love for yoga. At the age of 30, they opened a yoga studio together. Surprisingly, the business was very successful, and everything was going smoothly. However, later on, they neglected the management, and the business of the yoga studio gradually became less prosperous. The business even became very bleak. This caused the sisters to be constantly worried and frequently blamed each other. From that point on, their relationship wasn't as close as before. They argued over trivial matters 2-3 times a week, sometimes even resorting to physical confrontations. However, after each heated argument, they decided to make up, agreeing to put the work issues aside and take a trip together to Hawaii to relax. But right after they arrived, something strange happened. So, what happened on that day? What secrets did the two sisters hold? Next, let's turn back time and go back to May 29, 2016. On May 29, 2016, it was a Sunday. There was a Ford Explorer SUV driving along the coastal road on the island of Maui, Hawaii. The driver was the elder sister, Allison, while the younger sister, Anne, sat in the passenger seat. At that moment, they were driving around the island, enjoying the surrounding scenery. Maui is the second largest island in the Hawaiian archipelago, with an area of 1,886 km². It has a pleasant climate and is a famous tourist destination. Maui is home to many beautiful valleys, earning it the nickname the Valley Isle. Allison and Anne were driving the SUV along the Hana Highway. The Hana Highway is 105 km long and built on rugged cliffs. While driving on the Hana Highway, tourists can admire the spectacular scenery, sometimes passing waterfalls and other times facing the vast ocean. Here, you can enjoy the magnificent beauty of the mountains and the sea, providing a refreshing and relaxing feeling. It is one of the most beautiful roads in the United States. However, despite its scenic beauty, The Hana Highway is narrow and winding, sometimes requiring drivers to slow down to below 15 km to be safe. Otherwise, accidents are likely to happen. The Hana Highway is an older road with rough segments, making driving a constant jolt. Although the landscape is picturesque, it holds many hidden dangers. In the beginning, the sisters were in a very good mood, but for some unknown reason, they started arguing. Then, they fought in the car. Anne, sitting in the passenger seat, pulled Allison's hair. Allison pushed Anne away. At that moment, the car was still speeding down the road. Suddenly, the car swerved to the left, crashed into the road guardrail, and plummeted down a 60-meter cliff. The car tumbled several times before crashing onto the shore rocks and coming to a stop. Because there were many vehicles on the Hana Highway, many people witnessed the car plummeting off the cliff. They saw movement inside the car and immediately called the police. Upon receiving the report, the police and rescue personnel quickly arrived at the scene. They airlifted the injured to the hospital. Subsequently, the police began investigating the incident. The car fell from a 60-meter high cliff, and the impact force caused severe deformation of the vehicle. Allison was taken to the hospital for examination. She had broken ribs and an arm, but could still walk on her own. For someone who fell from a 60-meter cliff, surviving was incredibly fortunate. Allison's life was not in danger, but her younger sister Anne was not so lucky. She died instantly in the accident. Before the accident occurred, there was a witness driving behind a SUV of the two sisters. This witness reported that, through the windshield, he could see the two sisters having a severe argument and pulling each other's hair. The witness was very shocked to see that scene. In fact, when driving on Hana Road, one must stay highly focused because it is very narrow, and even a small mistake can be dangerous. Yet, the SUV carrying the two sisters was not only speeding, but they were also fighting while driving, which is chilling to think about. The witness then saw the SUV plummet off the cliff. The police found some long blonde hair in M's hand, indicating that before the car fell off the cliff, M had indeed been pulling Allison's hair. She used considerable force, otherwise, the hair wouldn't have been torn out from the scalp like that. The police initially concluded that the accident was caused by the two fighting, which led to the car losing control and plunging off the cliff. From the traces left on the road, the police surmised that the car made a sharp turn to the left, hitting a guardrail made of soil, causing it to go over the edge and down the cliff. Since Allison had a steering wheel in front of her, the airbag deployed to protect her from hitting the windshield. M, on the other hand, sitting in the passenger seat, hit her head on the door when the car flipped over and was thrown to the back seat, leading to the tragedy. Data from the vehicle's black box, combined with an analysis of the airbag control module, revealed that the car did not decelerate. In other words, Allison did not brake before the car went over the cliff. It went over at high speed. Technicians were also deployed to simulate the accident. Notably, after falling off, the car landed on a coastal rock outcrop surrounded by the sea. If the car had landed slightly differently, it would have fallen into the sea, making it unlikely Allison could have survived. This led to suspicions about whether Allison intentionally aimed for that spot. Did she deliberately aim for that location before driving off the cliff? Experts on the scene noted that when driving, it is impossible to see how high the cliff is and what lies below, whether it's rocks or water. It's only when you reach the edge that you can see, so the chances of her intentionally picking that spot are low. While Allison might not have intentionally picked that exact spot, she might have deliberately driven off the cliff, and it was coincidence that there was a rock outcrop below. Allison's behavior made the police suspicious. When the Maui police first arrived at the scene, Allison's first words were, "Why are you here?" Furthermore, Allison initially did not want to answer the police's questions, nor did she inquire about Eames' well-being. During the conversation, Allison was agitated and incoherent, leading the police to administer a sobriety test. Her blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit for driving in the area. At the hospital, the police informed Allison that her sister, Eam, had died, but she seemed indifferent and did not cry. The police quickly identified Allison's boyfriend, named Dickerson, who owned the crashed SUV. When Dickerson arrived at the hospital, something strange happened. Allison told him, "Shut up, you're saying too much in front of the police." Even stranger, when the sisters of father arrived at the hospital, he expressed his disappointment, saying it should have been Allison who died. The police then investigated the background and history of the 2 sisters. They discovered that 8 years earlier in 2008, the sisters had opened a yoga studio called Twin Power Yoga in Pembroke, Southeast Florida. Pembroke is a renowned seaside resort town facing the ocean, boasting world-class beaches that attract many tourists yearly. During the summer, hotels there are fully booked. Pembroke is not only a tourist spot, but also an area for the elite, with many wealthy individuals owning beachfront villas. The yoga studio was initially very successful, earning considerable money. AIM even bought a Porsche. Gradually, their business declined. In 2011, after 3 years of operating their studio, the 2 sisters were invited to participate in a reality TV show. The show's producer suggested that they rent a larger and more luxurious space for their yoga studio. The producer also promised that after they rented a new location, he would continue to invite them to participate in the reality television show to help enhance their reputation. After careful consideration, the 2 sisters found this idea worth trying. Therefore, they rented a larger and more luxurious location in the the Beach area. This move greatly increased the costs for the yoga studio, with the rent alone becoming significantly more expensive than before. However, the reality TV show producer went back on their word and did not fulfill the promise to feature the 2 sisters on the show. After relocating, the business of the yoga studio did not meet expectations. Later on, the income from the yoga studio was not even enough to cover the rent, resulting in monthly losses. In desperation, the 2 sisters decided to close the studio in 2014. At this point, they were $100,000 in debt, approximately 2.3 billion VND at current rates. Notably, the 2 sisters did not inform their staff about the closure in advance and owed several months' wages to the employees. Some customers who had bought membership cards and placed deposits were also not refunded, and the 2 sisters fled. This caused customer outrage, and some people posted negative reviews online to expose the sisters. the news gradually spread, and more people learned about their actions. The reputation of Ioki Twin Power Yoga in the local yoga community plummeted rapidly. After closing the yoga studio, the sisters moved from Florida to Park City, Utah. Their names appeared multiple times in negative online reviews. Such criticism severely impacted their reputation. Therefore, the sisters decided to change their names. Addison changed hers to Alexandria Devo, while M changed to Alatasia Devo. Later on, they opened another yoga studio in Park City. However, it wasn't long before someone discovered their real names. Just a quick search of their real names online would reveal their dark past. Park City is a small town, and rumors spread quickly. Soon, the local yoga community knew about what the sisters had done in Florida. As the business of the new yoga studio deteriorated, the sisters incurred more debt and were forced to close once again. Subsequently, they sank into sadness and often drank together, unwittingly worsening their woes with alcohol. Once they got into a drunk brawl in a restaurant. When the police arrived, they were still pulling each other's hair, and their car ended up in a small ditch. Apparently, they had faced a similar situation before that led to losing control of the car. In March 2014, Allison was arrested for driving under the influence, fighting while driving, and fleeing the scene of an accident. Following this, M threatened the police officer arresting Allison, stating, "I will kill you." Consequently, she had to serve time in jail for assault and threatening a police officer. In December 2015, the sisters moved to Hawaii. They then used false names to solicit cash from staff at a homeless shelter. Despite living in a luxurious spa resort at the time, far from being destitute or needing shelter assistance. No one knew why they did this. In 2016, the sisters rented a house locally and both found boyfriends. Allison with Henry Jackson and M with a man named Bailey. The four of them lived together in a spacious rental home. Bailey, M's boyfriend, noted that the sisters frequently argued at home and sometimes even fought, with their fighting skills appearing quite professional. Shortly before the accident, M and Bailey planned a camping trip and deliberately did not inform Allison to have a romantic getaway for the two of them. During this period, Bailey was supervising the sisters in trying to help them quit drinking, so they did not bring alcohol on the camping trip. AM and Bailey went to a Costco to buy some necessary items, but at checkout, they realized they had taken a license card by mistake, so M and Bailey returned to fetch their own card. When they got home, they saw Allison. Upon learning about M and Bailey's camping plans, Allison said she wanted to come along, which upset M. The sisters argued on the way to the campsite and remained glum when they arrived. Later, Bailey stayed alone at the camp while the sisters drove off. When they returned, they seemed very cheerful and told Bailey they had met another pair of twin girls hitchhiking on the road and had a lively conversation with them. Shortly after, Bailey discovered that Em and Allison had been drinking. At that time, Bailey was trying to help them quit alcohol. The sisters had broken their promise together, making Bailey extremely angry. After that, Bailey left the campsite, saying he wanted to be alone for some quiet reflection. Not long after, Em and Allison took an SUV and left with some wine. That was also the last time Bailey saw the two sisters. According to Bailey, a week before the incident, Allison had once told him, "I want to kill her," referring to M. Allison also told M, "We will leave this place on the 30th. From then on, M's behavior became very strange. It seemed that something serious was weighing heavily on her. M appeared very anxious, her hands trembling violently. M, who was usually very confident, had never trembled like that before. But when Bailey asked M what had happened, she got irritable and said nothing. This led to speculation whether Allison had driven the car deliberately off the cliff. It was possible that Allison had planned a suicide with her twin sister beforehand. But then, something even stranger happened. After the accident, when Allison returned home, she asked Bailey, M's boyfriend, to wash her hair for her. After bathing, Allison wore M's clothes, sat next to Bailey, and leaned her head on his shoulder. Bailey said, "Seeing her in M's clothes made me very uncomfortable. M had worn that dress just a few days ago." Allison did not want to discuss any details related to the case with Bailey. After gathering some crucial testimonies, the police believed Allison was involved in the incident and planned to arrest her. However, by then, Allison had fled. Allison knew the police were after her, so she booked a flight to leave Hawaii. On June 3rd, 5 days after the accident, the police received reports and went to Maui Airport. The flight Allison booked experienced an issue and was canceled. So, Allison went to a nearby hotel. The police arrived at the hotel and arrested Allison. 8 days after the incident, the first hearing took place in court. The prosecutor charged Allison with second-degree murder, which refers to intentional but not premeditated killing. At the hearing, Allison's hands were still bandaged. The judge ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to support the accusation. Thus, the second-degree murder charge against Allison was dismissed. After being released, Allison returned to New York. However, she was arrested again for driving under the influence and failing to wear a seatbelt. Tests showed her blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. Once arrested, Allison refused to disclose her residence and also refused to provide fingerprints and photographs. In October 2016, 5 months after the incident, prosecutors found additional evidence and continued to prosecute Allison. Here, it is necessary to mention the concept of a grand jury. The jury we often talk about is the petit jury. The grand jury is different from the petit jury. The grand jury usually appears in preliminary hearings to decide whether to indict or not. The petit jury appears during the trial to decide the defendant's guilt or innocence. At this preliminary hearing, the grand jury found there was enough evidence to indict. On November 11th, Allison was arrested in Albany, New York, and was subsequently transported to Hawaii. On January 29, 2018, the official trial began. Allison was charged with second-degree murder. If convicted, she would face a sentence of over 20 years up to a life term. At the trial, several witnesses for the prosecution testified one by one. Some testified that they heard 2 women in the SUV arguing fiercely. They saw the woman in the passenger seat pulling the hair of the woman driving. Another witness, Tori Weaver, testified that she heard the engine roaring as the SUV accelerated. she saw the two women in the car arguing, with the passenger pulling the driver's hair. Then, the car suddenly swerved left and plunged off the cliff. Another witness, Kallio Ako, stated he heard the driver yelling at the passenger, "Call a psychiatrist. We need a psychiatrist right now." Another key witness for the prosecution was Kate Wace, M's ex-boyfriend. Kate Wace had dated M for more than 6 months and had known the sisters for more than 6 months. Wace testified that the sisters frequently argued and were jealous of each other. Once Wace received a call from M. M said over the phone, "Come here quickly, I'm about to kill her." Then, M used a phone to hit Allison's head. When Wace arrived at their house, he saw broken bottles, glass cups, and blood scattered everywhere. Allison's face was injured, and the bedroom door was damaged. Yet, the sisters acted as if nothing had happened, sitting together on the couch. Whenever Wace asked if they were okay, both would respond, "We're fine. We're watching a movie." They seemed to have completely forgotten the harsh words they exchanged over the phone just a few minutes earlier. On another occasion, when Wace went shopping with the two sisters, something they said to each other prompted one sister to unexpectedly hit Allison on the back of the head with a stick. They started a fierce argument again. We stated that when sober, they were good people, but once they got drunk, they turned into different people. Bailey, the girlfriend's later boyfriend, mentioned that he felt Allison was a bit envious of her sister because her sister always had a boyfriend, while Allison was left out. In court, Bailey testified that he had known the sister only 35 days before the incident occurred. At that time, Bailey was living in his car. Later, she invited Bailey to live with the two sisters, providing him with stable accommodation. However, some people believed Bailey had not been around the sisters long enough to provide reliable testimony. After the deliberation, the court declared Allison not guilty of second-degree murder. Allison's attorney, Bailey Betva, told reporters that this was an incredibly challenging ordeal for Allison. One cannot imagine the feeling of losing a twin sister in such a tragic accident and then being accused of intentionally killing her. Allison is innocent. However, Maui's prosecutor, John Deacon, expressed his disappointment. It was clear there was enough evidence to show that at least Allison had committed misconduct. Although the case is closed, public opinion remains divided. Some believe the sisters might have had a psychological issue that caused them to act impulsively, frequently arguing and fighting in public. On the day of the incident, after an argument, Allison could not control her anger, coupled with previous thoughts of making a rash decision with her sister, so she drove the car off a cliff. The sisters had once met a spiritual teacher named Letley, and they were more clear-headed and rational at that time. Therefore, we don't know what caused such a drastic change in their personalities later, and whether it was the direct or indirect reason leading to the tragedy. Others believe Allison intentionally caused the accident out of jealousy toward her sister, which could also explain why Allison remained indifferent to her sister's death and even approached Bailey afterward. Bailey mentioned that her sister intended to start a business with him in Hawaii and excluded Allison. Previously, The sisters had almost always been inseparable and did everything together. So it's possible Allison discovered her sister's intent to abandon her, couldn't control her anger, and had malicious thoughts. Some people think alcohol addiction was to blame. At the time of the incident, Allison was drunk. It's highly likely that alcohol abuse led Allison to lose control, resulting in the tragedy. When they lived in Florida, a neighbor said they were good people. I don't know what happened to them afterward, but I know they were heavy drinkers. This suggests that alcohol had a significant impact on their lives. There is also the opinion that it was just an unfortunate accident. The immediate cause being Anne pulling Allison's hair, causing Allison to lose control of the car, rather than Allison intentionally driving off the cliff. Allison later participated in a television show where she mentioned that she felt deeply saddened and tormented after experiencing those events. However, ultimately it was Allison who drove the car off the cliff, so what was her true intent at that moment?